Hello children, welcome to another class of physics today. Today we are going to continue with the topic of pressure in fluids, and what we are going to start is, yes, atmospheric pressure. Now this pressure is again air being the fluid, so the pressure exerted by the air is what is basically known as atmospheric pressure. Now we know that since Earth is the only planet which is having atmosphere, so that means we can say that this envelope surrounding the Earth is actually applying the pressure, which is what we refer to as atmospheric pressure. To be more precise, the force exerted by the air on a unit surface area is what is basically referred to as an atmospheric pressure. To study this thing on the surface of the Earth, let us perform an experiment. In this, what are we going to do is that we'll be taking one of the can. We are going to fill it with oil, and we are going to start heating it up. And as soon as it gets heated up, so there will be a rise, the air is going to escape out. Alright, now as soon as the air is all expelled out, tighten this thing tighten the cap part. Alright, now after that, immediately remove it from the gas stove and place it somewhere on a stand, and now you pour down the cold water onto it. You will see that the can is being crushed. It is being crushed. So that means there is something of force that is applied on the outer part, which is crushing it up. Now why is it so? Why is it happening? Why is it that when this water is being poured down, only when the water is being poured down, then this thing happens? Why? Because there is no force getting counterbalancing the outside force. Over here, so it is balancing, so that is why we are not having any difference existing in this. But over here, we are having. So why is it happens to be? We have tightened it up, so that means no air could escape out. But when we are pouring it down, what is happening? Condensation is happening. The steam is getting changed into the liquid state. So that means thus now it is change into vacuum. No air is present which could counterbalance the outside air, and thus it will be exerted by the tremendous atmospheric pressure, and so this can is going to be crushed down. Alright, okay children, moving ahead to study more precisely, then it was a barometer that was constructed to measure that how much is the atmospheric pressure that is exerted. So for that you must have already studied in the previous classes also. In this, what is being done is that we take a 1 meter long tube filled up with mercury from 0 to 100 centimeter, and then we have to invert it and place it in a trough or a beaker already containing some mercury. The moment we are going to invert and keep it, so we'll see that initially, which is 100 at the bottom, this level starts falling down to a certain height, and then after that it stops. After that it is not falling down anymore, it becomes stationary or stagnant. Make sure this condition or this position should be upright and erect or vertical or perpendicular, we can say. Now what will happen? Why is it this falling happening? Yes, this is the free surface where the air is applying the or atmospheric pressure is observed, and which is being balanced by this vertical height of the mercury existing in it. So it falls down only to a level where it can balance the atmospheric pressure exerting on the free side of the trough. And so this is the torsional vacuum that is being created, which is vacant, which is not having anything existing in it. So in other words, we can say that air exerts as much pressure as it is exerted by 76 centimeter, we can say, or 760 mm, it means the same thing, of vertical height of a mercury column. Clear? Now what could be the particular changes? It might be possible that there could be a possible drop in height, there could be an increase in height. What will that and how is that going to be? That will depend upon the pressure. Correct? How? If the barometric height is less than 76 centimeter, that means this is going down. So that means in this very case we can say that the air pressure has fallen. So that is why to measure that it will come down. And if the air pressure is going to increase, so this will force it and it will stay in the upward direction. So that means in that case it will be more than 76 centimeter when the air pressure has increased. All right, children. Okay. Now these are the possible cases or the scenario in which the tube could be tilted or could be present. Always remember, even if we tilt this, they will be the same height. Now you will say, sir, this will be the height to be taken up. No, children, this will not be the height. Height is always the perpendicular distance or the normal distance. So that will always be this very height, and even if the position is tilted, still we'll see that they will be having the same height, or the level of the height is going to be same from the top, from the free surface where it is being dipped. So we can say that the vertical height is basically independent of the shape or the size of the tube present. And in case even if we tilt it around over here, maybe sideways anyways, so there is no change happening. Now let's see what are the factors which affect the barometric height. It is the presence of the moisture, dissolved metals in the mercury, the vertical height from the sea level, temperature, moisture in air. All these are going to be the various factors on which the barometric height depends upon. Now, how does the moisture in mercury depends? Remember, it is found that in case that the mercury is damp or some liquid traces is being present, in that case, if it is being introduced in this space, so what will happen? Then the barometric height drops in. Why is this happening? This is happening because the pressure is that liquid in the gets quickly vaporized present in the vacuum. Vacuum means this very part, the leftover space. And the moment it is having a vacuum, it turns into vacuum. So there will be a, then the vapors are going to be exerting the pressure on the surface of the mercury that is in contact and will force it down, to move down. And that is why we are going to see the decrease in height. So, and obviously the presence of dissolved metals is definitely going to be, because in this very case the apparent density of the mercury is thus is going to be decreased. And as we know that the atmospheric pressure is always given by the height due to the mercury column into the density of the mercury into the acceleration due to gravity is what is the formula for the pressure to be calculated. It will increase with the corresponding height of impure mercury. Thus the false barometric pressure is recorded. So these are the various factors on which it is going to depend upon. Now we'll see, in case we are going to use the water thing instead of the barometric liquid as mercury, then what is going to be the change? So initially let's say that the mercury column is having a height h with for Hg, mercury height, and let's say Hw be the height for the water column. We know that the air is going to apply the pressure on the water column will be this, and the pressure that will be air pressure that is going to exert will be equal to the mercury column, and this will be equal, the pressure exerted by this and the pressure exerted by this is going to be the same. So which on equating this, we'll see that acceleration due to gravity cancels out, and we are going to get a ratio of height of water upon height of mercury column and density of mercury column upon density of water. We know that the density of water, we know the height of the mercury column, and we also know the density of the mercury. So which in turn is going to lead us to the height of the water column, that comes out to be 10.34. So just imagine we will be needing a 10.34 meter test tube for the water, and obviously this is practically not possible that we could be having a 10.34 long meter. So this is one of the disadvantage of using water as a barometric liquid. And moreover, we know that if we are going to use water, so what is going to happen, the water is going to vaporize under the vacuum present over there in the test tube, and then in that case again the atmospheric pressure will not be recorded as per the barometer used. And so moreover, water being transparent, we won't be able to record the exact reading, and obviously it sticks to the glass tube. So these are the various disadvantages. And why do we use mercury? So reasons are basically that, like, vapor pressure of the mercury at ordinary temperature is almost negligible, so it is not going to push down the mercury. Mercury is the densest liquid, and moreover it can be easily obtained in a pure state. It is opaque, shiny, and does not wet to the glass tube. So these are the possible things. Okay children, next thing to study is the Fortin's barometer. This is basically a specially designed mercury bowl. Again, it contains a mercury only, alright, with a leather bag attached, and this is a mercury reservoir. We have a pointer, we have a glass windows so that we could obtain whether they are touch or not. And this leather bag can be made up or down with the help of this zero adjustment screw. Why are we using this thing? Because we know that the case of the for the mercury barometer, we cannot, it is not portable, we cannot use it anywhere, it is not handy, whereas this can be just placed up on the wall to record the pressure, record the barometric pressure and all. So this is why we can use a Fortin's barometer. Now over here the brass cap is having like two holes present, you can see. All right, now an ivory pointer is fitted at the lower side of the brass cap. The brass cap is provided with two holes. One hole is for the barometer tube, all right, and whereas the other one is for the hole that communicates with the air outside that comes in and allows. And normally this glass tube is somewhere around like 90 to 100 centimeter in length and filled with dry mercury and then inverted into the bowl of dry mercury again, so that it comes out in contact with it. Now how does it works to be? In this, in order to record the barometric pressure, first of all what we need to do is that we have to make adjustment in such a way that it has to be zero, and when it is moved up or down, this ivory pointer index should be touching the free surface of the mercury. Clear? So it is moved up or moved down, so the pointer part should be touching the free surface. At this moment the zero of the barometric scale is being recorded with coincide with the free surface. Now the vernier adjustment screw is moved up or down till the convex surface of the mercury is in line with the vernier scale, and the main scale reading and the vernier scale reading are recorded, and then finally the atmospheric pressure is we are able to calculate from here. Next what we have to study is an aneroid barometer. This is the most widely used barometer which we use it. All right, now in this we can see that too many levers and springs are being connected, isn't it? And this is the scale which tells us about the reading part, and we have a pointer, we have a lever, we have a scale, we have a stand, we have a diaphragm, that is what is basically known as. So these are the different things present in it. Now as soon as the atmospheric pressure increases, so this increases the pressure, and thus the diaphragm is which pushes the diaphragm in the downward direction, on account of which the central lever moves down. This tiny movement of the central lever is magnified by the system of levers, one after the other, which are being interconnected to each other, and thus the metallic chain is being pulled outward. It is being pulled outward. Clear? The pull in the chain in turn rotates the pulley, and hence the pointer moves over the scale, which in turn helps it to move. This is going to pull, and so this will turn it to move the pointer over this very scale, and thus due to the movement of the pulley the hair spring gets wound up, and when the atmospheric pressure decreases the hair spring unwinds. That is K. K is the hair spring that unwinds and pulls the chain inward, due to which the pointer moves in the opposite direction, and thus we are able to see it. All right, okay children. Now why do we use aneroid barometer? Because it does not contain any liquid. It is totally free from any of the main effect is like it is free from the defects caused by the impure or the moist mercury. We can say it is compact, portable, it can be fixed in any plane. So these are the various things in which we should be using, and we use like aneroid barometer as compared to the other barometer. Now let's quickly see what are the different uses of a barometer. Now barometer is widely used as an altimeter for forecasting weather, which we normally use all these things as a barometer for. Now if we go up by 105 meter approximately, this fact is used in altimeters where the fall in the length of mercury column can be directly converted into the terms of height, and then we can get to know the height or the approximate distance or the approximate vertical height of that very place above the sea level, we can say. And as soon as we see that if there is going to be increase in the temperature of the air, so again the atmospheric pressure is going to decrease. Clear? Or if it is going to be increase in the moisture, then also the atmospheric pressure. So all these factors are the factors where we widely use the barometer 4. Now let's take quickly few numericals also. Okay children, let me read out the question for this very one. The area of the cross section of the pump plunger and the press plunger of a hydraulic, oh no, I got it wrong, I'll mixed up, just a second. Okay, the question says that calculate the depth of the salt water lake if the pressure at its base is 16 times the atmospheric pressure. The density of the salt water is given as 1050 kg per cubic meter. Acceleration due to gravity is 10 meter per square second that we will be using, and the atmospheric pressure is 10 Newton per square centimeter. Remember, it's per square centimeter. So we know that at the bottom it is 16 times, so let the atmospheric pressure be P. So it is 16 P, and pressure at the bottom will be equal to the atmospheric pressure plus the pressure due to the vertical height. So 16 P minus P, and this will be equal to into H into rho into G. Now what is H? H is the height of the salt water, vertical height, or the depth, density of the liquid salt water, and acceleration due to gravity. On substituting this value, now we'll have to convert square centimeter to square meter, so divide by 2 times by 100, which just changes into this very thing, and so cross multiplying we'll be getting the height of the salt water to be as 142.85 meter. All right. Okay children, let's take the next one now. In this, the question says that the areas of the cross section of the pump plunger and the press plunger of a hydraulic press are 0.02 square meter and 8 square meter respectively. If the hydraulic press overcomes a load of 800 kgf, calculate the force applied at the end of handle of pump plunger, and if the mechanical advantage of the handle of the pump plunger is 8, calculate the force applied at the end, or basically the effort we can say at the end of the handle of the pump plunger. As we know that mechanical advantage will be equal to area of the larger piston upon area of the smaller piston. Mechanical advantage, we know there is always load upon effort. Load, how much we have to lift, it is 800 kilogram force upon the effort made, and this is area of the larger piston upon area of the smaller piston, 0.02 square meter. And so cross multiplying we will get the value of effort, which comes out to be 2 kgf. Now it says to also calculate the effort at the end of the handle So mechanical advantage, this putting up the value, cross multiplying, so this is what we are going to obtain effort at the end of the handle. Let's take one more question, last one. The radius of the press plunger and the pump plunger and the ratio given to us is 50:4. If the effort of 40 kgf acts on the pump plunger, calculate the maximum resistance the press plunger overcome. So we know that the resistance overcome upon effort applied, resistance what we need to overcome is going to be the load that we need to move through basically upon the effort applied, will be equal to radius of the press plunger upon square upon radius of the pump plunger's whole square. Putting in the value, cross multiplying, so we'll be getting resistance of the load or thing that we need to overcome. So that is going to be 6250 kgf. So with this we come to the end of this chapter. Go through this each and everything children, it's very important. Bye, stay home, stay safe, take care.